top priority of our administration. A major instrument in helping achieve our goal is to have sites that are risk free and development ready in order to attract large scale projects that in turn create high quality jobs for Iowans. In 2012, the Iowa Economic Development Authority partnered with the Branstad Institute to develop a nationwide strategy to promote economic development in Iowa. The strategy focuses on developing high quality jobs in Iowa and promoting economic development in Iowa.
Only the beginning of the process, and there's a lot more that goes into it. The governor and Debbie and I travel all over the state and the world and the nation to market Iowa as a great place to do business and to grow and expand a company. And we've got one of the best directors in the nation when it comes to economic development. And I am really proud to turn the podium over to Debbie.
Well, thank you. Well, it helps when you have such a great team at the executive level as well. Well, I too offer sincere congratulations to our 5 communities, and I fully appreciate how daunting this process can be. We were talking about the Clinton folks. You guys were at it. I said 4 years, but the mayor, you corrected me and said you've been down this path for 5 years to stand here today. And of course, our friends of Osage know a little bit about that as well. So now that the hard work of the certification is complete, the crucial work of actually landing projects begins. So, project development can be very risky for companies to undertake. And I don't know how many times we've sold a greenfield site that had no due diligence done, only to find out, oh, there's a compaction issue, or there's wetland mitigation, or there's an archaeological dig. And we want to mitigate those risks. We want to take that out to make sure that we can truly move at the speed of business. Certified sites make Iowa more competitive for both job creation and investment. It is simple It is that simple. We will continue to market these sites through print and digital ads and site selector and industrial related publications and sites via our websites and blog. And I believe no one does that better than Tina Hoffman and her team of marketers. And we also have Chris Cataldo here, who is our liaison at the Authority with McCollum and Sweeney, and your liaison. If you run into any issues, you have a point person that you can reach out to. You know, recently I had the privilege of serving on a panel in Chicago at an economic development conference, and I was with a lot of directors from the Midwest. And clearly, site certification is not something new in our industry, in our world. What I can tell you, though, is Iowa has taken a much more comprehensive and aggressive approach to this by having one consultant that we work with, so we have uniformity. So when you have a site next to, you know, Brunel's, or you have a site in Osage or wherever it is, you know that the same criteria was used. And we know it simply works because to date we've seen over $490 million worth of activity on sites and parks that have been certified. I can also tell you that it is our hope that we'll close on another certified site in the first quarter of next year. And also that we're able to pitch these sites on a moment's notice when most consultants will not let us anymore pitch sites that we can't guarantee are certified and ready to go. So the community leaders representing the 5 sites that became certified today, as well as the other 11 certified sites before them, are truly to be commended. They put in a lot of hard work to achieve this seal of approval. So today I want to thank them for their foresight and working for this designation, and more importantly, thank them for being such great strategic partners to the state of Iowa. Thank you very much.
Debbie, thank you. And just recently on our trip to New York,
Yes.
Debbie and I and Chris and I hope we had several communities represented as well, had a dinner for site selectors. And we've got the governor's deer hunt coming up, I think the first weekend in January. And we've had, I think, 3 or 4 economic development projects that we invite site selectors to come and participate in the deer hunt. And we've had several that have chosen Iowa as a result of that. So we intend to continue to market, obviously, these sites, as well as meet with site selectors as we travel around the country. And when we do economic development trips, I think of the one to Atlanta or to Seattle this year. We also met with site selectors there. So we have an opportunity for you to ask questions. Let me just ask, the communities are very well represented. If you're from Forest City, raise your hand. Okay, over here and over back in. I went to high school there, so I'm kind of familiar with that. Waterloo, and I know we've got, okay, the mayor and several other economic development people from Waterloo. Clinton, again, we have the mayor and a lot of the
Senator Hart.
economic, and Senator Hart is here. Okay, and Osage, the Green Devils. I'm familiar there. They were in our conference. They have Valent Biosciences already that's located there, and Grinnell. And I see Pete Brownell, and he's got a beautiful new building there right along the interstate, which is, I guess it's called Brownell's Business Park. So it's a great location. I was there for the grand opening. Okay, questions that you have of us or any of the, I guess, the communities as well.
Well, it's probably since we started the certification in 2012, it's probably been about 3 to 4 years that we've seen those developments. And we can actually get you a list of those companies and communities as well.
Other questions? Debbie, I'll let you answer this.
I believe we are ahead. Certainly, when I listened to some of my peers around the Midwest, when they were talking about the number of sites they have certified, I mean, certainly with the 5 that we added to the 11 today, just by sheer number, it is our goal to have a certified site, at least one in every 99 counties. I mean, that was our goal when we went into this. The other thing that's really unique about us, in many states, the economic development organizations will do the certification, and we thought long and hard about that. And we dismissed that because we believed it needed to be an objective third party that came in and did this. The other reason that we did this selfishly is because ask any of the communities, McCollum and Sweeney is the gold seal of certification in the industry. They're highly respected, but they also will tell people no. And I would rather them do it than me tell Steve no when he calls and says, why do I have to be so many miles from a 4-lane highway? And I can defer all of those calls. But seriously, no, I think that we are taking it. I think we're, again, most aggressive in it. But I think more importantly, I think our certification actually means something in the world. And the consistency.
Yes.
Correct.
Of the program.
Was this like not done before? Was there just a failure to recognize how important this kind of thing is? So, Governor, you weren't doing this?
Well, I think it's become more and more sophisticated. Economic development has become more and more competitive and more sophisticated. So if you want to be really successful at it, you've got to do more things and you've got to be better prepared. And so that's, I think, where we've gone. It's just changed. It's a more competitive situation, and companies are not willing to wait. They want to be able to move quickly. And that's what this is all about.
The thing I like too about it is we talk about we want to see growth in every single corner of the state of Iowa. And if you look at the communities that are receiving the designation today, it's a lot of rural communities across the state of Iowa. So to have a program like this that works with the communities to help get them to the place that they need to be competitive, then we truly are going to see Iowa growing as a state when we're seeing economic development in every single corner.
So what do but you've got 16 sites, but you've got 99 counties. So what about the other 83 counties?
Well, it's a lot of work.
Are they all
It
a bad job or what?
no, it's a bad.
People
It's,
working on it. It's a process.
first of all, you just need to know, and the communities maybe can help answer this too. In some cases, they've been working on this for many years. It's a difficult process, and consequently, and it's especially for a smaller community, it's not an easy process, and some cases there's some expenses involved in doing it. So all of that makes it a challenge. But we're just saying that's not to say there isn't going to be some economic development occur in places that aren't certified sites. But for the big projects, this is really kind of the gold standard. And that's the reason why it's so important.
So, but I just wanted to follow though, but are you doing something?
Yes.
You've been concerned about rural Iowa not having
Yep.
economic development, not losing a lot of population. Is there something proactive that you're doing though to go out? Because 16 isn't that many when you look at the entire state.
Well, first of all, we are going to every county every year, and we're visiting sites. For instance, my last stop on my 99 counties was in Monroe County to visit a company that does rehabilitation of railroad locomotives, and they employ 150 people. And so that is an example of things that are going on. I've been to Osage, to Valent Biosciences, when they when they built their facility, and that's another great example. I was at Brownells. Actually, I signed a bill there, and then I was also there for the grand opening. And so there's a lot that's going on, and we think this is one of the most important things, especially for the bigger projects.
The other thing is too, I mean, this is one component of what we're doing in the state. We're working on workforce, future ready Iowa. Connectivity is extremely important to make sure that we have the bandwidth that we need for an individual to take an idea and to create a company and develop it into a successful business. So all of that collectively goes together to keep our cost of energy low so that we can continue to be competitive when it comes to the cost of energy. So all of this is part of a process to make Iowa competitive and to encourage businesses to locate here and to encourage existing businesses to grow and expand.
And let me just talk a little bit about, so what we do is we have 2 windows of times of application process. And as Chris will tell you, it is a daunting process and people come in at different times of the year. So we probably have how many in the queue that we're working with right now, Chris? Another 12 that are different places of the certification. The other thing we do is we do webinars. We speak every year. We have a breakout session at the SMART conference. As the governor and lieutenant governor travel the state, I do too. And one of the things we do is meet with economic developers. I mean, Senator Hart, you asked me what could your community do almost 5 years ago. And I said, this is one of the things you can do to really separate yourself. So we are constantly marketing the program. The other thing is, though I do say we have really tight tolerances of what we allow for certification, there are exceptions to that. And so sometimes in the rural areas, I'm going to give you an example of that. In Centerville, their problem with certification is just close proximity for 4-lane highway. However, they have such a vast abundance of water that we believed, and they're close, and they are still close. It's just not as close as we'd like to see them. So we are going to do a certification with them because of that issue. So we will start marketing projects or prospects in that area that will depend a lot on water. So we are making some exceptions so that we don't leave people behind in this process.
What the mayor of Clinton? Or which mayor? Forest City, Clinton? You want to, why don't you come up here to the microphone? Yeah.
5-year process. I was elected. My name is Mark Volich. I'm the mayor of Clinton, Iowa. And yes, it is a 5-year process for us because the site certification program was announced, and we had an industrial park, and it was just somewhat unique for us. It's a private and a public partnership. Each of the 2 entities actually own about half of it each. And it's on the farthest edge of our actual city limits. So, we're not really in town. It's quite a ways from the heart of our town. So it did pose a lot of challenges for us, and, such as water. We don't own the water company. So that was one of our holdups for a number of years, was we had to negotiate with a private firm known as Iowa American to what would be the cost, or how would we get them to want to invest in putting water at our rail park. So there's 3 phases to the whole process, and we made it through the first one but the third phase, which really like having broadband, what do we have for communication? There again, we're sitting out on the farthest edge of our community. So, we needed to find a solution for that. So that's where we talk about that it took a while, because if you have a very small community and everything is close, it's real easy. But as you get bigger and you get into the rural areas, which, you don't think of it being Clinton being kind of a larger city, we're 26,000 people, but we've got 35 square miles is actually part of our community. So yeah, it's took me 2 terms as mayor to actually the year I was elected, I took office in 2012. We started it. I just got reelected. I started my second term in January, and luckily I was able to. One of my goals was to get the city certified, and like I said, I think it's a real credit that the public sector and the private sector, and without our Clinton Regional Development Corporation, which Janelle Kraling that works for them is the person that really did all the paperwork and took care of this. The city of Clinton itself could never have done it. There's just that much work involved. Okay. Yes, since I've been mayor, we've had a number of firms come look at our park. And as we've been able to develop the pieces to the site certification process, we've already got answers to a lot of the things. They want to know, have there been environmental studies done? What do we have for water? What's the availability of gas, electric, the other utilities? And as we've actually worked on this certification, we've started to have those answers. And I can see going forward that it'll be a lot simpler, that there's actually now a book in here, everything you should possibly want. We've got those answers. And that's one of those that make it easy for a site selector to choose us, instead of, oh, we can go to a town that's actually got all that information prepared. That is something that's still being worked on. Janelle would have to explain that better. We did identify a company that is the provider for the area. There again, to get the final, it's there. We're going to still would have to talk to them about how would we get it, there again, there's an investment to be made. They will do it, but we will have to work on that. But it's available. We've identified a provider, and that was really the big goal. Is that we've got someone that can provide it.
And I think, as you can see, each situation is kind of unique. And their site is in the west end of Clinton, towards the airport and towards over towards DeWitt. As you know, Clinton is the furthest east city in Iowa, so they're right on the Mississippi River. But this site is very far to the west. It's the west end of your community.
Farthest possible from part of the town.
Right. Other questions? Yes. Debbie Durham and I were. Don't run away, Debbie. We were just on an economic development trip to China, and among other things, we made several calls in Beijing and also in Shijiazhuang, which is the capital city of Hebei, our sister state. And we called on a number of companies. Now, we cannot really disclose the names of the companies, but there were 3 MOUs that were signed when we were in Hebei. One was with Transova, and one was with Highline Chickens, and one was with the Kimberly farm. They're going to do a kind of a demonstration farm like President Xi Jinping visited when he was here in 2012. And then we called on, I think it was 6 different companies while we had sit-down meetings with them while we were in Shijiazhuang. We also made some calls in Beijing as well. And I don't know, Debbie, is there more that you want to add?
Well, I just think that, we've obviously had a strong trading relationship with China. What was so encouraging for me about this trip in particular is we're really beginning to focus on direct foreign investment back to Iowa. And as the governor talked about the 6 meetings we had in the Hebei province, but we also had 2 very large meetings that we are very hopeful of, that we may see some activity within the next year to 2 back in Beijing. So it was for us, I think it was very gratifying to see us begin to move to that next level of relationship with China.
Also, there was a Chinese delegation that was through here in October that purchased how much soybeans? Well over $1 billion worth of soybeans. And China purchases more soybeans than all the rest of the countries in the world combined. We also, there's a Chinese company now that owns Smithfield Foods, and a number of other pork companies in Iowa sell significant pork in China. We also had a meeting with Minister Han, who's the Minister of Agriculture Minister in China. Specifically, he mentioned that they intend to lift the ban on beef, which goes back to the mad cow issue. There's still some other hurdles we got to go through there. So we had, in addition to Debbie and I, we had corn, soybeans, pork, and beef all involved in the mission, and they had meetings in addition to the meetings we had. First of all, I have not been confirmed yet, and I've been advised it's not wise for me to comment on foreign policy at this point in time. So I'm focusing on my responsibility as governor. Yes. Well, I think it's on the schedule. Yeah, it's
That's nothing new.
Yeah, we have, honestly, we have dozens and dozens of Chinese delegations coming through here all the time. And we try to be really good hosts and meet with them. And I guess that's why I'm an old friend of Xi Jinping, because when he came here in 85 and he was just a county level party leader leading the feed association in Shijiazhuang, I met with him and his delegation. I have a picture of that in my upper office, April 29th, 1985. But it's kind of Iowa friendliness and hospitality. And as a result, we have an old friend that's in a very important position. I was also in Muscatine last week, and had dinner with the Landys. Of course, they hosted the old friends reunion at their home, and there's significant Chinese investment that's being made in Muscatine. I think there's some Chinese investors that are helping with building a new hotel there. The Dvorak home has been purchased by the Chinese. I think um, Jim Stein's former residence has also been. So I would not be surprised if Muscatine's going to become a real hot site for Chinese tourists, because people in China are fascinated by the love that President Xi has for Iowa and especially Muscatine. So we certainly want to do what we can to help promote economic development in all forms, including tourism, as well as in reverse investments and selling of Iowa products. Right. Well, first of all, I've had the honor of presiding over those meetings of the Electoral College many times over the years. I guess this one has become a little more meaningful, and there's been some pressure placed on these people. But first of all, I have great confidence in the system. It's served our country well for a long period of time. And I expect that the 6 electors from Iowa will follow the will of the people. I mean, uh, President-elect Trump and Pence carried 93 of Iowa's 99 counties and won by between 9 and 10%. First Republican to carry Dubuque County since 1956, and carried some counties that Republicans don't normally carry, like Wapello, Lee, Des Moines, Jasper. I could go on, Cedar. Clinton. Um, so I'm not. I don't think we're going to see any surprises out of it. I'm interested to hear some of the stories from the people that are electors, but they do have a responsibility. And the way the system works at the party convention, uh, these people are elected. Each party elects them, and then whichever candidate carries the state, it's the electors from that party. So I presided over um, meetings of the Electoral College when they were all Democrats. In this case, they're all Republicans.
Last question.
Yeah.
Governor, I have a budget question. As you know, the state patrol is way down. What it, around 2,000, something like that. 50, 350, something
Right.
like that. Has been as high as 455. We continue to hear concerns from troopers that it was spread too thin. I think there was a triple fatality out in western Iowa. A week ago, troopers told me it took 3 hours for all of the troopers to get to the scene. The people were already
Yeah.
deceased, injured,
Yeah.
were removed. But they're concerned that they're spread too thin. They would like to get help during this upcoming legislative session. Can you respond to that?
Well, first of all, I want to say I have the greatest respect and admiration for the people that serve in public safety, uh, the state troopers, the highway patrol, but all the people in public safety at the state and local level. I think they do a phenomenal job, and they have a difficult job. And we've had some tragic fatalities that have occurred in the ranks of people in public safety, as well as from motorists. We have a group, a task force that's been looking at changes we can make in the laws to try to address some of the issues involving uh, drivers under the influence, distracted drivers, drowsy drivers. I expect this will be an issue we'll be addressing. With regard to, we're also going to be looking at DOT enforcement as well as the highway patrol, and seeing if there's more that can be done to try to coordinate that, or maybe even uh, address that in a way that provides more public safety and protects the citizens of the state of Iowa. But we have to do this in light of the real budget realities that we're facing, and that is I have to present a budget based on the December revenue estimate and not spending more than 99% of that. And as you know, that was just reduced by $96 million. And that's after it was reduced in October. So we're going to be working off a much lower base, and we're going to have to make some difficult decisions on the budget. This year, we're going to have to do some deappropriation in order to meet the fiscal challenge we're facing. We have a requirement that the budget be balanced. I'm not going to do an across the board cut, which Culver did. I thought that was a big mistake. Instead, I'm going to work with the legislature and make recommendations. I want to protect K through 12 school aid from reductions and property tax credits. I don't want to see those reduced. Medicaid also, we have saved over 100, I think $110 million by going to managed cares. And so the risk there is on the MCOs that are delivering the services. And we do intend that savings, but we're not going to reduce further the amount that the state is providing for Medicaid. Okay, thank you.